Well, Dolphin fans, Chris Greer, the general manager of the Miami Dolphins, warned us that he was going to be active in the third phase of free agency, and the Dolphins have done exactly that. On Monday, Miami traded Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Ramsey and Pro Bowl tight end Jonnu Smith and a seventh-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick, former Dolphin safety, Pro Bowl player, and a 2027 fifth-round draft pick. And today, on Tuesday, a day after moving Jonnu Smith, can't say get rid of, moving Jonnu Smith, the Dolphins aggressively went after Darren Waller and signed the Pro Bowl tight end who retired last year to a one-year contract, filling the tight end need. Now, Isaiah Smalls, Miami Dolphins writer, joins me. Isaiah, tell me more about this Darren Waller addition.
So basically, it happened something little, along the lines of this. Darren Waller indicated that he wanted to play. The only team he wanted to play for happens to be the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, there's a bit of a connection there between him and Dolphins offensive coordinator Frank Smith, who was his tight ends coach between, I believe, 2018 and 2020, specifically during Waller's best years when he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2019 and 2020. And so aside from, the on-the-field production, Waller loves Frank Smith. He said, and I quote, Frank was my favorite coach. He is a guy, hold on, let me find the quote. Frank is my favorite coach I've ever had. It was really just about helping people be better. I feel like that's what would make a great head coach. I would talk to him about how I was feeling, if I was feeling a certain way, or if something in my life was impacting me in any way. There was no hesitancy as far as going to him. And so I'm sure as fans know, Waller dealt with some substance abuse problems earlier in his career. He's since gotten clean, all that stuff. But he credited Frank Smith with being one of those guys that really pushed him to get clean. And so it is a reunion, preferably a reunion that I'm sure Dolphins fans would have loved 5 years ago. But it is a reunion nonetheless. In his last time suiting up for the Giants, I believe he was second on the team in receiving yards with 552 yards, 52 catches, and a single touchdown. I guess the hope here is that he will, be better or at least on par with that production. Maybe matching Jonnu's production might be a little bit of a stretch considering the age difference. And, again, he's been away from the game for a year. He looks like he's in great shape still, but,
Absolutely.
Being in great shape is very different from football shape, as I'm sure you know. So it'll remains to be seen the Darren Waller that we will get when training camp starts July 26th. However, he fits the bill as a pass-catching tight end. That's what the Dolphins needed. The room was kind of barren without Jonnu. And, we get to see, how much left in the tank he still has.
Yeah. What I find very interesting and reading up a lot on Darren Waller, watching an I Am Athlete interview where Darren Waller talks to mental health expert Brandon Marshall about his struggles. What you shaking your head?
You're wrong for that. You're wrong for that.
Hey, listen. And this seems like a guy who lost his love for football. A trade to New York led to isolation, which led to depression. And ultimately, he had to walk away from the game because he found himself spiral into old habits. We don't know what those old habits were, and I'm not judging anybody on their sobriety or counting how many days they've been sober or if they've relapsed. That's honestly none of my business.
Of course.
Interesting point for you. You know who's also on a sobriety journey?
Who?
Mike McDaniel.
Oh yeah, duh. I'm tripping. I don't know why I did it in my brain to go there.
So we got the connection with Frank Smith, who obviously helped him elevate himself from the deepest point of his life
For sure.
to nearly being out of the NFL and battling drug addiction and alcohol addiction to returning to the playing for the Miami Dolphins, where he's playing for a head coach who has also battled a sobriety issue. and is a recovering alcoholic, and you don't ever stop being a recovering alcoholic. So he could definitely understand it. This is not the first player that the Dolphins have had covered, dealt with. I mentioned Brandon Marshall earlier, who has played for them and battled some mental health issues. Richie Incognito battled some mental health issues. This is not uncommon in the NFL. What is uncommon is that they're vocal about it, but some people are vocal about it so that they can inspire others and create change. Now, the question is, and this is where you lost your love for football. It led to some negative habits resurfacing, and you had to walk away and go to therapy, deal with some of those issues. Who's to say it's not going to happen again? Who's to say that joining the Dolphins is going to lead to you thriving and you being mentally good? And I can't predict the future. I'm glad that he's giving football another try, another opportunity. The deal got done by Drew Rosenhaus, who coincidentally, Isaiah, just so happens to represent Jonnu Smith, who he just helped triple his salary, trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Rosenhaus moving and he wheeling and dealing these last couple of days, man.
Listen, Rosenhaus never stops wheeling and dealing. But he also looks out for the Miami Dolphins. He does.
He definitely does.
He does. And so you got Jonnu his money. You helped Miami get Minka Fitzpatrick. And then you handed them a tight end, which cost the Dolphins, what was it? A conditional sixth?
Yeah, it was something small.
A swap of 6th and 7th.
Yeah, yes. Swap of 6th and 7th.
Or something like that. Something.
Yeah, they traded away a 2026 round pick, and they got back a 2027 7th round pick.
Okay, so we just moved down one round. Okay, and listen, when you're that deep in the draft,
yeah,
you're just throwing darts at the wall. So do you think that this will solve their tight end void?
I think it's better than the alternative, because the alternative would have been just kind of standing pat and, hoping Tanner Conner has a year, or Farrell Brown or Julian Hill and Jalen Connors emerges. Like, I think going out being aggressive and getting a guy, I think, is the better option than just standing pat. Look, we've seen Tanner Conner be a monster at points in training camp and mini camp, but we haven't necessarily seen it translate, on the field. As I mentioned yesterday, the tight end room prior to Waller being there, the tight end room in 2024 didn't do all these three things. They didn't have more than 15 catches, they didn't have over 100 yards, and they didn't record a single touchdown. That, to me, is an issue when you're looking at that group. And we've talked about John Embry and how elite his tight end rooms have been, but you can't look at that one and you can't expect him to make water out of wine, or wine out of water. So I'm happy that they went out and got a guy who, his best days might be behind him, but he still could be serviceable. And I think that's what you need. You just need someone who's serviceable. Again, you're not bringing in a guy hoping that he will, for the second consecutive year, rewrite the tight end history books. That would be, nonsensical to think, right?
Hey, Craig.
But if you have a guy that can, get in here, get 500. Honestly, if he just replicates what he did in New York, 500 something yards, 50 catches, would want more than one touchdown, maybe a couple, do half of what Jonnu did, 4 touchdowns. To me, that's a successful season for somebody who has not played professional football for a year. So I mean, look, I think you got to kind of manage it.
I'm not worried about the year layover. Like,
you're not? Okay.
I'm not. Sometimes it helps guys regenerate their bodies. Sometimes, I'm going to tell you a secret. They go on an HGH cycle and then they come back completely refreshed. You know what I'm saying? And those lingering issues or injuries that they might have had, they just magically disappeared.
Yeah.
So a year away from football does not worry me, does not concern me. The question is, how quickly can he pick up on the playbook?
For sure.
The fact that Frank Smith is there, I don't know how similar the playbook is. He's a 9-year veteran. He's been around the game. You don't have to give him every package because Julian Hill's probably going to continue to be the inline tight end. I don't know how well. I have not gone over the film because it just happened today.
Yeah.
I had things to do and things to write and podcasts to take. So I'll look at it and see how he does as an inline blocker. But clear, if it works out, if he stays committed to football, if he stays sober, what did you have to lose?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you think about the alternative again, like that tight end room as it stands, before Tuesday at 11 o'clock, it wasn't good. It just kind of similar to how the cornerback room took a huge hit when Jalen Ramsey left. I felt similarly about the tight end room, and so. I think we were kind of waiting, and we're not necessarily surprised by the move either. Pelissero
put it out there
yesterday that they were already shopping.
That's the announcement that we got a deal. Anybody else want to offer us anything else? Right.
That's real. That's real.
Any other offers?
That's real. Going once, going twice. Sold to the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And so from a cash standpoint, the Dolphins get a guy who I think that's a big thing too, right? They got to. I think what Jonnu was scheduled to be paid, $4 million last year?
$4 million because he voided his $100,000, not participating in the workouts. But Jonnu was going to be paid $4 million. I'm pretty sure that Darren Waller's base salary is $4 million, and he's probably got another $1 million in per game in bonuses. That's usually how Rosenhaus and the Dolphins do business, especially when you have no idea if this guy's even going to stay committed to football or play football or, and then factoring in injuries because he has battled injuries throughout his career. But you mentioned, we talk about the new additions. And for those who did not watch yesterday's podcast, which you should, and I'm very disappointed in you if you didn't, Minkah Fitzpatrick is clearly going to be the starter. Ashton Davis and Ife Melifonwu are battling for that other spot at the safety position. Minkah will play free safety because that's the last time he was here. He left because you wouldn't let him play free safety. Yeah. So trust me, he's playing free safety. Now, Ife can play nickel, is an effective nickel. That if he does pan out there, that would allow Kader Kohou to move out on the boundary. So now you have Kader Kohou, and I'm ranking them, Storm Duck, Kendall Sherfield, Ethan Bonner, Cam Smith, Isaiah Johnson, Jason Marshall Jr. Did I forget anybody?
Artie Burns. You put Artie Burns.
Damn, Artie Burns.
I'm about to say, damn, you put Cam Smith above Artie Burns? That's kind of crazy.
I do put Cam Smith above Artie Burns. Artie Burns is a 9-year veteran, been a practice squad player. I think he's got experience and ability to play in the nickel, but what has he done lately? Cam Smith is your second-round draft pick.
What has Cam Smith done for me lately?
You're correct. He played more than Artie Burns did last year. But here's the thing about Chris Grier. Mm-hmm. Chris Grier is going to twist your arm and make you play his draft picks.
Okay, that's fair.
Until they fall flat on their face. That's
Cam Smith didn't fall flat last year, but he was stumbling. He was stumbling last year. I ain't gonna lie to you. He was stumbling.
I'm not even gonna touch it, but but these are facts. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what pans out. But here's the thing: I'm not necessarily certain Chris Grier is done wheeling and dealing. He is clearly quite active right now. He warned us, I'm going to be active in the third wave of free agency.
He did. He definitely did.
He's like, I'm about that. I'm going to get this roster better. And if you look at the moves that they made, lost 2 Pro Bowlers, gained 2 Pro Bowlers. Gained 2 Pro Bowlers. Now, show me a veteran cornerback, Xavier Howard, and an offensive lineman, Isaiah Wynn. And I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go for training camp.
You think they'll bring back Wynn for a backup role?
You know who represents Win?
Viable option?
You know who represents Win?
I'm guessing Rosenhaus.
Oh, you smart. You figured it out. Last I heard, Isaiah Wynn wasn't retiring.
Okay. He looked good in spurts last year, like obviously towards the end of last year.
We don't know what kind of shape he's in.
Yeah.
Can he pass a physical? Yeah. Obviously, he's got a month to get his act together. We'll see where that goes. But I'm not just ending it as Isaiah Wynn. I'm sorry, Isaiah. Did you look at those backup offensive linemen?
There wasn't much there for sure.
Liam Eichenberg was looking like a superstar.
He certainly was for sure.
Compared to the rest of the unit, the backup unit.
For sure.
You kind of need something. You need something. Isaiah Wynn would be a great insurance plan. Cornerback. Great that you added Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's going to help you in your secondary. Minkah is a conductor of traffic. He's like air traffic controller back there from a leadership standpoint. But it would be great if you had a veteran presence in the cornerback room. I have said it, and I hope Cater does not take offense. See how it pans out, what it looks like in training camp. I do think that the pass rushers will help compensate for their lack of experience and lack of ability. There are guys there in that unit that have ability. I did see Cam Smith, his rookie season, look like an effective NFL player. Now, obviously, mentally, physically, he wasn't bad. He just
now you ain't never said that.
Oh, wait,
you ain't never said that.
No. His rookie season, he was in training camp. He was working second unit the whole training camp. Not bad. If it was him and Noah Igbenogany were battling for playing time, the starting spot, I would say he was better than Noah. However, he got beat on a double move in Jacksonville, just some dumb rookie stuff, and entered Vic Fangio's doghouse and never exited it.
That's fair. The double move is killer. I get it on both sides. It's a rookie mistake, but then also like if you're a defensive coordinator, like
here's the thing about Cam that everybody in the world knows right now. He's gotta become more of a professional. He's gotta study better, gotta watch film, gotta prepare, and gotta stay healthy. That's why Storm Duck played over him, because Storm had the mental aspect of it and mastered his playbook, whereas Cam did not. And this is year 2 of it. So we're entering bust territory. We don't get that done in year 3. So that's on him. I like Isaiah Johnson. We'll see where that goes. He was a practice squad player last year. Jason Marshall Jr.'s got the best size. I don't know. And I'll say this from based on what we watch in OTAs and training camp, there's a difference with cornerbacks when the pads come on, and there's also a difference with cornerbacks when Tyreek Hill's on the field. Now,
that's real. That is very real.
You want to test these cornerbacks? Put Tyreek Hill on the field. Sure. And what's interesting is Tyreek has always sung Ethan Bonner's praises. He says Ethan Bonner can run with him. Like he's always praised Ethan Bonner. So have some of the other cornerbacks. So have some of the other wide receivers, including Jalen Waddle. Now, why Ethan hasn't played, I don't know. So we'll see.
I have my own thoughts about why he does that, but that's not. We're not gonna have that conversation on here.
Okay, he will be a target for whoever's playing cornerback, but exactly. I think Ethan has never not held his own when I've watched. There hasn't been a single practice where I could say, "Oh man, Ethan Bonner been abused."
I will say that from what I've seen as well. Like there hasn't been a time. A lot of these other corners you can point out, like, okay, you got abused today, you got abused today, you got abused today, and I think that's certainly a testament to his skill level. because at the end of the day, corner is one of those positions where it's very easy for, once you get like abused on one play, that's why they talk about that short-term memory, because you got to be able to and I think that's, if Cam Smith develops that and gets that at a high level, I think that's, that can be that can be what gets him onto the field, in addition to the master of the playbook, all that stuff. But that short-term memory, I don't think you can discount that enough.
And it should also be pointed out that during training camp, the Dolphins usually start running out of cornerbacks and start running out of wide receivers, because those are the positions that run the most, and then they start to suffer lower body injuries. You better be prepared for that, because the last thing that you need is a Cater Kohu going down. Knock on wood. I'm sorry, Cater. I apologize. And then you're stuck with what? So it'll be interesting to see what veterans the Dolphins add moving forward, while Chris Greer is clearly still shopping. And we will be here, unfortunately, even though we're supposed to be on vacation, if they make another move. Dolphins in depth, we are here, even on vacation, covering the team that you love. On that note, we are out, and enjoy your 4th of July weekend.
For sure.
Be safe.